Hey, hello and welcome. My name is Paul Ryder and I want to share something very personal with you in this, something that devastated my childhood and I know for a fact devastates millions of people's childhoods all over the world. And that is if you've had alcohol abuse in your family home while you were growing up. Now, this is impossible to say how it would affect each individual. The only way I can describe it as a metaphor is like throwing 1,000 golf balls into a squash court and expecting to find some kind of predictability. Alcohol abuse in the family, especially if it's your parents, can be absolutely devastating. There is no structure, there's no predictability, and what we need as children when we are growing up is that stability. But alcohol totally destroys that in every way. So it's kind of like what is okay Monday is not okay Tuesday. What's okay Tuesday is definitely not okay Wednesday. But it might be okay at 12 o'clock on Friday, but next week everything is turned upside down again. It could be that one of your parents says, "Come on, let's have a really good laugh today," and everything's all buoyant. And then the very next day, when you try to act buoyant with them again, they get frustrated and irritated and tell you to get out of the way because you're in their way. Or could even be blaming you for their drinking in some way, shape and form. Again, it is impossible to say what happens because every expression of alcohol abuse can be very different for each individual. And again, there is no structure. So this video is a way that I'm going to share about the fact that I can totally relate if you're going through this, and the fact that I just want to add this in here as well, that I used to have devastating trauma, obviously, as all children will do when they're growing up with alcohol abuse in the family. But I do want to share something with you that I've actually overcome my own trauma. And the reason that I wanted to share that with you is because for many years, I just used to believe I was trapped with it. I unfortunately got into contact with terrible therapists that would just tell me to think positive and look at how bright my future could be. But that doesn't get rid of the trauma. It could be the memories of the screaming and the shouting, the feeling like you've been abandoned. Or for me, it was that smell. When you walk into the house and there's just that smell. And again, though, it's very different for each individual. And also very different for different age siblings. For example, I'm the younger sibling and my sister was older. And I noticed the pressure that she would have to go through when it felt like that she was being forced into being a parent. Or it was that confusion of, well, how do I act in this family home when the rules and the boundaries keep changing every second? So each different age sibling can have a totally different experience, even though they're going through the same family home. So again, I just wanted to add that in to say that I've overcome my own trauma and I firmly believe it is possible to overcome your trauma. I've done it obviously not only with myself, but also with other people working through it. But because it's such a core area growing up in your family home, it will take time and you have to find the right person to work with you should you choose to work with a therapist. It's not just a simple case of picking a therapist out of the phone book and expecting to get a result. You need to work through with somebody who you can totally relate to and then also knows how to navigate through that very challenging situation. However, in this video, I want to share something with you that is a wonderful resource, and it just, I think saying filled my heart full of joy wouldn't necessarily be the right appropriate word for it, but I think that this resource can change countless people's lives. And the main thing that I noticed with this is you're not alone. Because when you're going through alcohol abuse, especially in the family home, I can remember watching Fight Club, and the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And that is how it felt for me growing up. I was going through what I was going through, and it kind of felt like I just shouldn't talk about it. Or other people will have it harder than me, so I'll just get on with my life. But underneath, it was tearing me apart inside. So I just wanted to share that from my perspective to explain that if you are going through that, or you might be in a relationship with somebody who's had alcohol abuse in the family, and it can help you understand a little bit more about their perspective as well. But now let's take a look at this wonderful resource that can really help support people when they're going through a really difficult time if you've had alcohol abuse in your family home. And this resource is called NACOA. Now, it's the National Association for Children of Alcoholics. Now, there's so much on this website that I highly recommend visiting. I'll obviously put a link in the description below. So you've got a free phone helpline. So if you're just feeling overwhelmed and you just want somebody to talk to, but not just somebody, it's going to be people who've experienced what you may have experienced as well. And like I say, going through when you've had alcohol abuse in the family home, it can make you feel like you're very, very alone. Here, it's showing that 1 in 5 people in the UK are affected by a parent's drinking. You are not alone. And you're not. There are millions of people experiencing this each and every day. So if you want to have a look around this website, there's a support and advice link, research and resources, message boards so you can communicate with other people who are maybe going through the same experience. Again, it's impossible to say going through the same experience because I don't believe any two people will go through the same experience. But again, it's about you not feeling alone. Here you can see there's a tab for getting involved if you wanted to do some voluntary work. Now, I'm just going through a double hip replacement at the moment, but once I can walk fully again, I'm going to do my very best to become a speaker for supporting NACOA because I think it's an absolutely wonderful resource. And for me, again, because I've overcome my trauma around this area, it's kind of like climbing out of a place from a ladder and then wanting to climb back down that ladder and help other people who may be struggling to get out of the same place that I was in myself. And there's news and events. Learn more about NACOA. So you're going to see here if you wanted to donate maybe, or there's lots of areas on their social media. And again, I just think this is an absolutely wonderful resource for letting us all know, and I say us because if you've been through it, it is kind of like a community of people really who have had our lives devastated in many ways by other people's drinking. It can sometimes be one of the most hardest things ever to sit down and admit that that's what really happened. For many years, I lived in denial about the fact that my parents were drinking and that my childhood home was in absolute disarray. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to feel it because if I felt it, it meant it was real. And that was what really happened in my childhood. So in some way, you might be feeling that way yourself. And one thing to say, it's not the easiest process to go through. But when you start to admit it to yourself, if you choose to, it can set your mind free. I remember a wonderful phrase by a lady called Amanda Palmer on Tim Ferriss's podcast always stood out in my mind. She said, if you don't exorcise your demons, as in past traumas, they go into the cellar of your mind and lift weights. Now, I don't mean to sound too serious or too intimidating by that, but the one thing I do know with trauma therapy is that while those trauma responses are in a part of your mind called Pandora's box, they can start to link and associate and expand through your life today. And sometimes it could be that they start linking and connecting, making your today's life much harder than it needs to be. But obviously, facing trauma is a one step at a time process. If I can ever help with any suggestions around that, or you want me to make any videos around this area, feel free to put them in the comments below because I'd be more than happy to show you some of the techniques and strategies I used to break free myself. So from that, I'll put a link in the description below to NACOA. I'm not associated with them, but I'm just sharing it with you because I think it's an absolutely wonderful resource of truly amazing people coming together to support other people who have gone through the same thing. And again, the one thing that I'll bring into it is that so many people that I've spoken to over the years who've been through alcohol abuse in their family home, the one thing that can link a lot of people together is that feeling that they are all alone in their struggle with dealing with the past. But you're not alone. Even if it means at the moment you're just observing, looking in the background, not getting in touch with anybody. Just look through the website, notice how it feels. And if you are on your journey right now, working through this, I really do wish you all the best. And anyway, you feel I can help you out through these videos or any training, feel free to let me know, because it is a very tricky situation. And like I say, it's kind of like throwing 1,000 golf balls in a squash court and expecting predictability. There is no predictability. So I hope this video has helped shed some light on if you are going through a challenging time right now because of your past experience with alcohol abuse in the home, or if you are in a relationship with somebody or you're a friend of somebody who's experienced that. All I say is if you are in a relationship or you are a friend with somebody, the trauma that alcohol abuse in the family can have on a person's mind and brain can be absolutely devastating. Hypervigilance, confusion, not being able to have any stability in any way, shape or form. So even though you may be saying to a person that you love them and that you are there for them, it might be that they haven't got the ability because of the trauma to believe that yet, and they're working through that process. So once again, have a look through the website. I really do hope that it can provide a very valuable resource. It is absolutely amazing, and what NACOA have done is phenomenal. But any comments that you'd like to share or thoughts that you'd like to share, maybe about your experiences only if you want to, feel free to put them in the comments below. And hopefully this video and other videos like it can become a support structure for millions of people going through very difficult times that are the after effects of alcohol abuse in the family home. And with that, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.